Hello and welcome back to my channel. So my name is Ambyes and we're going to be breaking down a little bit more of the trailer. Before we get to that, I just want to say that we will have a few more art videos mixed in. Um, Congratulations to me. I got an art instructor position and I definitely don't want to get rusty before school starts back up in August. So I will be producing more art content, which if you guys saw the first videos I ever posted, that's basically what I did before I started posting the theory videos and the breakdowns. I'm not sure how I'm going to divide it up yet. It might be one Death Stranding video, one art video, but I do know that the Death Stranding videos take quite a while for me to edit, so it's easier if maybe I'm not doing two a week. But yeah, we'll see kind of how it gets split up, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that will be kind of a change, but you'll still get the preview and kind of know what video is coming whenever it's Tuesday and Thursday. So without further ado, let's get into the trailer. This is the part 3 of Red Samurai. This shot is awesome. I love the fact that we really get a good look at both of them and the height difference. Anyone that makes Higgs look small is obviously a giant, and we get a better look at that neck piece. So this person is wearing kind of like a skeleton on the back. You can see the spine part of it, but it's definitely all connected. And it almost looks as though the spine goes all the way up and connects to something in the base of the skull. So it would not surprise me at all if we do find out there's someone inside this. One of the main reasons I thought that there wouldn't be a person is the lack of ability to see, but we've seen with the way that Higgs uses his mask that that's not necessarily a must-have, even for characters that are mostly human or appear to be human. So I could be wrong about that. One of the most important aspects of this video is the fact that we see a different side of Higgs and how he utilizes his weapons. Before, his weapons were very much long range. He was utilizing other people, other items, animals to do his dirty work. In the end of the Death Stranding 1 game, even whenever you are fighting him one-on-one, he starts out with a basically a rifle. I don't remember if it was like automatic or anything, but he had a rifle, and you're beating the crap out of him with cargos and PlayStation 2s basically. And even after you tie him up, he never, as far as I can remember, I don't remember him really like coming to you. I'll have to look up that video, but I don't remember him being like overly aggressive in his combat technique. It was mostly like a lot of teleporting and then him getting tied up and laughing. And at the end, when you basically have your fist fight, I thought that was kind of interesting because he doesn't necessarily do anything. He punches you, but the most he does, I don't think he ever pulls a knife on you that I can remember. And other than wearing gloves, it's just like an old-fashioned skin fight. And I'm really, really thinking hard about the fight. We know that if you're passive and you don't hit at all during the fight, that he will bite your ear off. But that's like the most aggressive that he gets in Death Stranding 1. And the reason I think that's kind of important to note is we all have a play style, and for the most part, if you're an aggressive player, you're going to want weapons, and if you are not an aggressive player, you're going to want something long range like grenades or things even that help you like get away, so like projections. And I think, of course, Death Stranding 1 did a great job of that and allowing you to play how you want to. But I also think it's interesting that he has this guitar because to me it reads as a battle axe, which isn't necessarily like what I would have put Higgs with. Higgs to me almost takes like an elf role. He's very smart. He's well read. That's something that, if you're not big into the lore or you didn't read the books or you don't care about the emails, that, is easy to overlook because he does showboat a lot. But for the most part, he's well read. He knows things about history. He's obviously tried to do research on different, mythos of the time. And for the most part, I mean, he's kind of fits that stereotype of well read, long range fighter. I mean, he's basically a mage, especially with the way that he uses like the creatures to fight for him. I mean, that reads to me magic user. If you played Elden Ring, magic users got a lot of grief because it's really difficult to start out as a magic user, but once you get to a certain part in the game, it's like they're just completely overpowered because you don't even have to get close to anything. And so that's the trade-off. But with him having the axe, that just gives him an entirely different personality set. So that reads as someone who is going to be on the offensive, that they are, usually like a front lines person or your muscle. They're not going to be, in the back, and they're going to be basically the first person that you throw out there. Like I'm thinking of like, of course I've never really been a D&D player, not because I don't want to, just because there's no one around to play with. And so I only ever really got like one chance in high school, and at the time it was really confusing to me. So really all I know about classes is just from reading and like different games. But I think of like the paladins and things like that, and how typically those are like your power heavy characters, and that's what he's reading like to me, instead of like a rogue or an elf or a magic user, just because of his weapon and his new outfit. Now the reason I feel like this looks like a battle axe is just simply the shape, and the way he's wielding it is he's throwing it around like it is a giant axe. And I just think that that's interesting to note, because it is so different to how he normally seems to be portrayed. And then you have Red Samurai, who has a katana, obviously. And I've been trying to think like how to fit those together, because typically, I mean, I don't see a lot of katanas in D&D. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen one. I mean, I've seen swords. And of course, I'm sure there's like homebrew, but like I'm trying to think your classic D&D party. I guess maybe a samurai would sort of be like your paladin. They have usually high morals. Um, they have like strict codes that they're going to follow. Usually your paladins have like some religious conduct code. I know your samurais have like more of just like a life code that they follow. So when you think of axes, you think of dwarves, if we're talking like classic fantasy. And if we're talking swords, then you think of knights. Now, typically, knights are defending something, defending a kingdom, or are in charge of something special, maybe like a princess. And then you have your dwarves, which typically are not your aggressors. They're usually kind of isolationists. They are more worried about money, monetary value, things like that. So if they play into those character stereotypes, then really Higgs hasn't changed much from the first game, other than maybe he sees more value in possessions now and, items. Moving on from the conjecture about their different archetypes, this thing that I've circled, to me almost looks like when you stick like a tranquilizer in somebody's neck, and you see that in a lot of movies, and then you control them. It wouldn't be far-fetched, I don't think, for there to be some sort of AI mind control in this game. We know that Hideo is like absurdly good at predicting the future, and we've already seen Charlie, we see the servers, and so it wouldn't surprise me if this is like a warrior who's being controlled by something else. Which again gives credence to the thought that Higgs may be on our side. Right now, it looks like Red Samurai is trying to help us and save us from Higgs, but I don't necessarily know if I think that's true, because if we're being misled, then Red Samurai may be controlled by someone else who just wants Sam for themselves, or to take Sam back if his blood still has all of those really awesome properties, he may still be very valuable to someone as an asset. So it's possible that Higgs is defending us here. Um, but it's also possible that this is just a new character that's going to be on our team. And, you know, maybe Lou is able to put out distress calls. Like I said, this happened probably less than a minute after Higgs touches the pod and kind of activates the beach. But it may also just be a character who is searching out intense energy points. And it would not surprise me if this is going to be a character who is, what would you call that? Like seeking revenge for the BBs. It would be a very noble cause if we had a character who was basically trying to uh, like defend the BBs, because we know that several have already been sacrificed for the BB network, or the chiral network basically. And in the first game, we get a small amount of story on that and how that is really hard for people to cope with, that they're killing children in order to build this empire. Um, but yet they still do it because the empire, the network, is more important than the sacrifice of some babies, which is like awful to say out loud, but that's basically, I mean, that's how they put it out there. And so if we have this character who is avenging, that's the word, avenging the sacrificed BBs, that would be a really cool concept. And lastly, on that note, I think that that would play into the trope of a gentle giant. And the misdirection would be that they are so big, they are so scary, but actually, guess what? They are here to help, like the helpless. They are here to defend these children who can't defend themselves. And I think that would be a really cool trope, but we really just don't know. There's not enough here to give us like any clear indication on Red Samurai other than just conjecture based on tropes and stereotypes we already know. The silhouette of Red Samurai is a strange silhouette because he has the 5 stars on the Ojudek face with the circle in the middle, which now that I know a little bit more about Metal Gear Solid, he just looks like that one character, like Gray Fox or whatever. And I'm just like, as a Death Stranding fan, I don't want Death Stranding to be like this repeat cheap parody of Metal Gear Solid. That's going to really disappoint me if all of this is just repeats of stuff we've already seen. And that that to me as a Death Stranding fan would be disappointing. I'm sure as a Metal Gear Solid fan it would be fun, especially if that was like someone that you really enjoyed. But as someone who came into Death Stranding purely for Death Stranding, it would disappoint me just to find out that this is like a repeated story. But the silhouette's interesting because you have like these 3 spikes upward, then you have 2 spikes down for the bottom of the star, but you also have these side face pieces that, are a type of armor, but I don't really know why he needs so much protection around his neck. And I'm still super weirded out by the chin. I don't understand what's going to be under this mask. Our first good look at the samurai sword details shows us that there are some etchings, but they don't look familiar to us in any way that I think would help us. I don't recognize them. I don't see any form of text that we've already sort of seen in the game, and I don't recognize the symbols as anything familiar in Death Stranding. Other than the fact that it sort of looks like maybe something sort of computery and it sort of looks like an S, there's nothing that really links it to anything else that we've seen. If you recognize any of these or you feel like we've seen them somewhere, you should let me know because I'm really pulling up a blank, so it could be a whole new set of symbols that will be relevant in the game. We still have this really odd, smoky texture to the room, and it makes me wonder, is this something that we see maybe when the beach is highly active or like the chiral network is really thick or something like that? Um, and yeah, this is the part where I was like, this dude's human because I mean, yeah, he gets a really high jump, But I mean, I think we can attribute that to things like the skeleton. The fact that he's not flying, that he is being very physical, he's using his enemy to his advantage to get the height on him. Um, all of that to me just speaks to a very human combat style. Which begs the question, where did he learn to fight like this? Who's taught him this fighting style? This isn't something that he did in the last game. It's not something that porters are known to need. This is a very video game style fight. And unless the beach is just full of people jumping and like hardcore battles, I'm not understanding where he got this prowess all of a sudden, which is just another reason I think something weird is going on. Like, did he download this information? Did someone train him? Is Red Samurai going to be his mentor? I don't think so, because their fighting styles are so different, but someone had to teach him to fight like this. You don't just wake up and know how to use a battle axe. It would be way more familiar for him to be using the pistol, which he doesn't have on him at all. And that just begs the question, where's the pistol? Pistols were so important in the last game. There was this running motif of, here's a gun, but the gun doesn't need to be used here, and it still has a purpose, but blah, blah, blah. Which I never did like the gun theme in the last one. I felt like that motif was not utilized well. And I feel like it was just Hideo talking about how we should be, more passive and less aggressive in our tactics. I also want to point out his Odra deck is still not on. He's not wearing the mask. So whatever's happening here is all Higgs. He doesn't appear to be bettered or helped by anything. It doesn't seem like he's got any sort of additional thing attached to him that's making him understand this fight better or what to do. So I do think we'll learn that, of course, Hideo said, I've made him 1,000 times better. You're going to hate him. So maybe it's just going to be one of those video game magic things where it's like, oh, Higgs is just really cool now. Like, he can just fight like so awesome. And my bone with that is he looks really cool, but he's doing so many theatrical twists, which I guess, yes, that is a very Higgs thing to do, that when he spins around and tries to hit the robot or Red Samurai with his axe, he misses because he spent so much time twirling. I like that we can see his stomach here. We can tell that plastic is a little more malleable than we initially thought. He's able to make it bend with him. So it's something, it's interesting that it's not glass then, because glass would not be moving with him as easily. So it's definitely some sort of transparent sort of plastic that has a little more flexibility to it. Pay attention to Red Samurai's sword. It actually loses its redness as he steps back, which begs the question, what charges Red Samurai's sword? Why is it red and able to make a killing stroke at certain times and not others? I have a theory that maybe it has to do with hand placement. Maybe he has to have all 10 fingers down on the sword or a heavy grip. If you look here, his pointer fingers aren't really gripping, and I think that could be something like maybe it's, something to do with pressure. Maybe he has to have all of his fingers on there. It could be similar to how Higgs has to use his 2 fingers in order to strum that guitar to charge it. Again, Higgs's little feetsies. This is how I know he's human. Who's gonna be wearing like nice orthopedic black shoes if you're not human? Homie has like Dr. Scholl's right now. And we finally get a good look at the chin of the robot, and it has basically 3 zeros stuck together. So I don't know what that means, but at least that's the first text we've really been able to make out on the robot. And I guess I really should be calling it Red Samurai because it might not be a robot. But like the gloves, the fingers, they all look very cyborg. But I've noticed there's so many of those little black circles, which you guys had told me were stabilizers from the first game. So if that's the case, there's a lot of stabilization to this guy. Watching this clip the first time, I noticed that Higgs sort of changes his fighting style. Right here, he goes defensive, and then he uses the battle axe more like a sword, and they sort of parry back and forth. The other thing is, we see Red Samurai backing away, um, and I don't know what to think about that. This is definitely like a dance, and of course, people always talk about in literature and such that like sword fighting is a dance. And when I first watched this, to me, again, I felt like this was two people playing together, like showing out almost, like how you would play with a friend. You both want to win, but maybe you're of equal talent, and so like it's very difficult. But I just don't know what to think about all this. And then he misses, which is funny because I think I just realized for the first time that the robot actually teleported on him. So Red Samurai's in front of him and then immediately behind him. So he really can teleport, and there's no smoke or anything. Like, there was no visualization that he was teleporting. That's really interesting about Red Samurai, and also gives me the idea that if Red Samurai wanted to hurt Higgs, that he would. Um, I mean, all he would have to do is teleport behind him and hit him in the head. So that brings, another layer. If he's not trying to kill Higgs, then why are they fighting in the first place? I mentioned earlier that when Red Samurai bends forward, it looks almost pregnant. And I also noticed whenever Higgs is too dramatic with his movements that he also gets like an oddly shaped stomach. So it may just be an animation thing, and less of like something that we're supposed to realize. It may also be because this robot may have like a gyro center, just like how like the other robots have movable wrists and stuff. And maybe that's why it has such a large center. This frame in particular stuck out to me because this was a killing shot. It would have been very easy for Red Samurai to gut him right in his side. Higgs has no armor really on his side. But instead, Red Samurai just kind of skips around him and basically just dances. I mean, he's not trying to kill him. If he was, I mean, this is the opportunity. It also, I think, shows the difference in their fighting style. The Red Samurai is very graceful. It's kind of on its tiptoes the entire time, whereas Higgs is very much like, I would almost say clumsy. He's very flat footed. He's moving in really large, like aggressive steps that are almost clumsy towards the other person. I snapped this so that we could finally get a look at Red Samurai's back, which, is kind of funny to say, but gives us a better look at his shoes. The way his boots fold down is kind of weird, and also gives us a better idea kind of how that skeleton is attached to him. If this is a boss that we have to battle eventually, and it probably is because that is just how it works, it's interesting to note that he does have guards on his kneecaps. So that makes me wonder, is that sort of environmental storytelling that the other robots, if you aim for the knees and shoot their knees out, will they fall? I mean, typically in shooter games, if they have any element of realism and you shoot someone's knees, like Resident Evil 4, for example, or Resident Evil 2, the remake, you shoot their knees, they fall, and then you can headshot them if you're not good enough to do it the first time. And if you have any doubt that this is probably not a person inside, it looks like this skeleton is bolted like into the leather outer shell. And I just don't think that that would work with an actual human unless they are like mostly not human flesh anymore. And also there's no clear like indicator that there's actually any like, this is crazy, but like genitalia down there. Typically, like if you're in an outfit like that, you would need space, and that thing is like ratcheted up. There's bolts right in like where your coccyx would be. And that's just like, I just don't think there's any reality to there being a human inside Red Samurai. Of course, I do like to argue with myself in these videos, so if there is a human in Red Samurai, I would say they are a tortured human. I don't think that they are going to be a comfortable character. I think this would be very painful. Now it's possible that like maybe they have like a hard shell underneath and that's what everything's bolted to. But it is worth noting that like everything on their body is like strung together with little strings. You can actually see it on his thigh, and everything is tightened by like these almost like elastic cords. I also think it's worth noting that, I mean, it has obvious like Egyptian references, especially with that chin piece on Red Samurai. So if this is a mummy, that's gonna be freaky. Higgs does have some strange things on his outfit. I think what we're going to find out is it's almost like an armored girdle type situation, because on his torso he has a really thin metal shell, and I think on his legs it's similar to his old outfit when he was a terrorist, and he had like built-in thigh armor on those as well. I mean, just really similar to like what a girdle in football would look like. And the only reason I even noticed that on his old character was because I was like, why are his thighs so wide? And then when I saw this character, it kind of made sense because this character also has like a really wide piece of like, it's not even fabric. It almost looks like he has foam, which I'm assuming is armor. So I think this black suit, the reason it is so odd looking and kind of multi-layered is I think it has like built-in like pockets of armor. And that makes sense if you want a tight-fitting outfit, but you want to be able to be flexible and move and have a little bit of armor as well, then I think you would have to have some oddly shaped things. I want to also note you can see Red Samurai in the top right corner, and in this very next clip, he is behind Higgs. So he does teleport, and he is able to do it without any visual disturbance. There's no chiral particles, there's no smoke, there's no, there might be a noise, but we didn't hear it in the trailer. So that's really crazy that he can just teleport like that. And the only other person we know who can teleport is fragile, meaning that either this person is going to be the same Doom's level as fragile, is fragile, which would be so cool. I mean, if the theory that fragile is actually dead right now is a thing, and then she turns out to be like a samurai, that would be cool, but I don't think that's a thing, but it would be cool. I don't know, it just means that we have another person with Dooms who's able to teleport. Unless they are just like a soul that can teleport, but teleportation is confirmed for Red Samurai. I was able to zoom in a little bit, and the top part says do not open. The part that I've circled is something I've seen multiple places on Red Samurai. It's almost like he has fabric tape on his armor, which is neat because that means that this is not like a new character. This is a character that has been through battles because they need to patch up their outfit. Something I didn't really get at first is on the elbow, the text is actually flipped, like mirrored. So maybe this person is from the other side. And that's a funny concept. Why would only their elbow text be flipped in reverse like we're looking in a mirror? So I was able to read it, and it looks like it says type ST008/02 TRX 22XX. And I just wanted to point out that Sam has disappeared from the background. This is where Sam was hunkered down when the fight started, and he's not visible anymore. So he's either left the area, been told to leave by either Red Samurai or Higgs. I'm sure someone said, get out of here. And this is a good opportunity to zoom in on a couple boxes and appreciate the bricks. I love whenever the Decima engine just excels at making environments so beautiful. We still have that really interesting like Ethernet energy imagery of like a Cat 5 or a Cat 6 cable. So I just want to point out Higgs's adorable little heels. He definitely has added a couple inches to his height with those. I also think it's kind of interesting how the skeleton has these additional wirings to kind of allow for a little more flexibility. It almost looks like that wire kind of moves, um, allowing him to get more agility. The katana, as it powers up again, lets off some chiral dust. I don't even know what you call that, particles. And also, he has another one of those tape pieces on his outfit. I have issues with this fight. So this is the first time that Red Samurai really goes for a kill shot. And I think my issue with it is I can't make sense of why now? Why wait until this point and then directly after this he like intentionally misses an opportunity again. And of course, we have some zoom ins on Red Samurai's armor just so you can get a better look at it. It all is one piece, and there's some venting holes in it. And he's got like a really weird thing on the top of his head that's wrinkly. And again, Higgs looks so unbothered. I'm so confused by the whole fight and what its purpose is. The lighting director, I will say, did a beautiful job. I think that the videos are going to be gorgeous when it comes out. But for our sake, it's worth it to look at it with a brighter light. For instance, I think Higgs's shoes are really interesting. I can't really tell what's on the bottom, but it does appear to have like a red sole versus like Fragile's yellow boots that she wears on the Magellan. And I really think that the skeleton and the way that they have created the armor is really, really neat and is so stylized. I cannot wait for the art book to come out. I wrote Titan Books and was like, please let me have the art book early. I want to do a review. Did not get a response. So sad. From the top half, it's interesting just to see the effect of this sword and how it seems to disrupt particles in the air. Now, at first I thought this is maybe because it's so hot that it is causing like a sweltering in the air. Since then, I feel like it's less about how hot the sword is and more about the fact that it can cut those strings and cut the robots in half. And maybe it's literally disrupting like the matter in the air. Especially if we find out Red Samurai is from the beach, it's possible that this is kind of going to be one of those games that has like a multiple plane of existence. So maybe the sword is able to cut through multiple layers of what is visible to us. Another reason I think that this could be someone that Higgs knows or has worked with is because of the gloves. They're very similar to the gloves that Higgs is wearing in shape and style. I know that they're not similar aesthetically, but they both have the compressed wrist. They both have a part by the thumb pad that is like a golden color and that is kind of large and is basically across the middle of their hand. And it's making me wonder, you know, if this isn't who trained Higgs, is this kind of his predecessor? Whoever gave him this outfit and these weapons, is this the person whose job he's taken? Is this like a rogue person? Did Higgs do what he is kind of known to do and commandeer someone else's culture, for lack of a better word? Not culture as in like the political term, but kind of like how when you hang out with certain people for too long, you start to take on their ways and how they look and act and are. So it's possible that this is someone that he met on the beach, got in with his job and sort of mimicked and has either ticked them off or taken their place. That wouldn't that wouldn't be too far-fetched that he kind of weaseled his way in somewhere and then kind of stole what made them so good at whatever they do. I mean, he now has a guitar that looks like Red Samurai's sword. They have similar outfits, and the reason I think that Red Samurai might have come first is just because his outfit seems older, less polished, and more battle worn. Not to mention the tech just seems older. He's Red Samurai has like the original Odra deck. A sword feels very old compared to like a guitar. Red Samurai has these really large um, armor plates that are similar to the bikes that Sam is driving around. And Higgs has more of like a polished, cool, modern outfit. And just for fun, here is Higgs with his face all crazy looking. And this part is why I'm kind of mad. So, we know that Red Samurai is capable of a killing shot. And even just in the previous two snapshots, we see that he was very close to being able to take Higgs's head off. Yet, here, when he gets the chance and all he has to do is aim high, he aims low and still just hits the guitar, which is why it almost feels rehearsed, like they're not even trying to hit each other. And that's my argument for why I feel like there's something very strange going on, that these two know each other, that maybe they don't like each other and they are fighting a little bit out of being mad, it wouldn't be out of place in a game. Like Revolver or Ocelot and Metal Gear Solid, I feel like tries to kill the snake dude every time he shows up. And it's just like, haha, I put a knife in your chest, haha. So I don't even think it would be out of place for Higgs to finish this battle and be like, oh, Red Samurai, I missed you, buddy. And Sam be like, what is happening? So we get a look at Red Samurai in his cast card that looks like he is getting ready to speak or to talk to Higgs, because they don't look like they're fighting here. And that is just another layer of evidence that I have that this guy is doing something good. Also, he has a bullet wound all of a sudden. He didn't have that before. So I'm thinking that that fight ended with him getting shot. And we also have a clip of Higgs. His guitar is powered up. We can see the red bar on it is still flaming. So I think this is Red Samurai and Higgs kind of measuring each other up or speaking or something, because all of his cronies are gone in the background. Let's look at it one more time with some better color details. We really get a better look at the overall fit that this guy has. And what I have realized now is that his face is actually zipped down through the middle to the red part of that Odra deck. And again, he's been shot right in the chest, and he did not have that injury during the fight. We know that Sam had a gun, but Higgs's people took it. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be crazy that maybe Sam shot Red Samurai, but because there's no cyborgs left, so probably the gun that Higgs threw on the floor, I'm gonna guess that Sam picked it up and probably shot Red Samurai. Why would he help Higgs? Again, who knows? But I don't think Higgs would have used a gun. He looked like he was enjoying the hand-to-hand combat too much. But, as we're looking around, I'm still not seeing Sam in the background of any of these clips. It doesn't appear that he's around. We do see a cut in Red Samurai's gut that is leaking tar, similar to, how Higgs is leaking as well. But again, Higgs does not look concerned. He looks pretty happy to be there and like he's living his best life. So I'm gonna try to zoom in just a little bit on Red Samurai, see if we can get some more details. First thing I noticed is, of course, Red Samurai got shot, but on his Odra deck, you can tell it is coming out of the headpiece, so that's interesting. And I think can help us understand maybe why that head is so awkward. We also can see those 3 zeros that are on the chin piece, and I was finally able to get a better look at what is on the armor plates. Yeah, plates, that's what they're called. My goodness, I've been searching for that word like all day. But first we can see that he was shot and nothing happened. It just kind of dented whatever that leather is made out of. But then it looks like below he was actually stabbed. Um, but no one has a knife that we know of. So that's odd. Who showed up and stabbed him? Maybe Higgs has a knife hidden somewhere. And anyway, the text up near the top that I have circled, I could not make it out for nothing, but the other one on the black circle says do not open high voltage, and down below it says the same thing as the bike did. It says special tools needed for assembly requirements or whatever. So basically the same thing we saw on Fragile's gloved hands, on Sam's bike armor plates, and I feel like we've also seen them some other places, but nothing crazy. And with that, we are done with the 3-part Red Samurai breakdown. And next, we'll be moving on to some of the landscape and like server clips that are a little more interesting in terms of new concepts and new creatures. And I hope that you will enjoy it with me. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.